All right, what's up everybody? In this video, we're gonna go over 2 defensive myths that I still see being taught a lot in today's game, and players should definitely not follow them, and coaches should definitely stop teaching them. Okay, the first one is going to be super choppy closeouts. So if you've played basketball at any level, middle school and beyond, you've probably been taught to close out a certain way. And this certain way is where you chop your feet like 10 times. So if we were doing a closeout drill, I remember like ever since elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way up into college, they taught us the same exact way to close out. So if there's a guy standing at the 3-point line and I'm sprinting out from underneath the basket or at least some distance, they would teach you to go hands high and close out like this. No exaggeration, that many steps. Now, the reason this is being taught is because the choppy feet are what is slowing you down, because when you're closing out, you're in a big disadvantage, right? Guy has the ball up there, you're sprinting out at him, and the basket, which he or she is trying to get to, is behind you. So you have momentum going against you, because if he just runs this way, it's very hard to stop. So those choppy feet are supposed to slow you down to prepare you to be able to change directions if they choose to drive. Now, the problem with this is it takes way too long to slow yourself down and decelerate with like 10 or like 8 small little steps. If we look at the highest level, or if we even look at like NFL players, look at the steps they're taking to slow down and cut. They're taking like 2 to 3 steps, right? Even though they're actually also taught to go super choppy on their closeouts. But in the game, they're forced to use something that works a little bit better. Otherwise, they'll be beat. The other thing is, if you start, slowing down from back here on a really high level shooter, they're just gonna shoot and make it every single time. Now, if you do that same exact thing even closer, slowing down takes so long that they'll blow by. So you're sort of in a lose-lose situation. So instead of those choppy closeouts, what we're gonna wanna get very comfortable in, and no coaches really teach this in team practices, so this is something you probably are gonna have to work on, is 2-step closeout. So this is what it'll look like. So if I have somebody up at the 3-point line and I'm trying to sprint out and close out, this is how I'm gonna stop, all right? I'm gonna sprint out here. So there was no chopping there. I just took 2 last steps there to slow down, and then I could slide out of it. Now I'm gonna show you what it's gonna look like if I were to stop and then slide. So obviously I just stopped there. But let's say I got there, I prevented the shot, and they started driving to their right. So this is what it would look like. Oh. All right, that's a lot faster than if I went. You see how much longer that takes? And I'm actually giving myself more of a cushion so they can just shoot over me, right? So when you're at a higher level, especially, guys are gonna be way better shooters and guys are gonna be faster, so you need less of a cushion. You need to be able to slow down in less steps, and you need to be able to actually get there quicker and change directions quicker. So what we're gonna see at high levels is 1, 2, and then slide. Or if we're going the other way, 1, 2, turn and slide. So that's the first defensive myth I wanted to go over, is super choppy closeouts and why we don't want to do that. The other defensive myth that we're going to go over today is a lot of coaches still teach to never cross your feet when you're actually guarding somebody. Okay, so a lot of times coaches are going to teach to never get into this position, and a lot of players are instinctively a little bit scared in this position, because they think that if someone snatches, they'll be sent like flying, or if someone crosses over, that they'll go like this and just fall, which is super silly. Now, really quick, before we go over all that, the reason we actually want to be able to flip our hips and turn and run is because it's a lot faster than sliding. Now, I'm not saying you're always going to be turning your feet and having your feet cross like this. You're gonna have a mix. You're gonna be sliding, you're gonna be flipping the hips, you're gonna be crossing your feet, but it all depends on where the offense is relative to you. So if you have a guy in front of you and they're directly here and your chest is sort of facing theirs, you're always gonna be able to slide, right? As soon as they beat you though, that's where you're gonna start to turn and run. All right, so we'll see this at very, very high levels. Defenders are very, very comfortable with this. Davion Mitchell is someone who is, very well known for being an extremely good perimeter defender on anyone he guards. And you're gonna see just how comfortable he is with sliding and then turning and then sliding again. So if I have somebody in front of me and I'm sliding and I'm, able to cut them off, and then, they all of a sudden change direction and I gotta get here, they're probably gonna be able to get past me a little bit because they, are choosing to change directions. So I'll probably have to take 1 step this way and then cut them off. That's not that big of a deal, but coaches, are so into their dogma that they think that the game is so black and white that you could just say, never cross your feet, but it happens all the time. Because a lot of the times we are gonna be beat, because the guy with the ball tends to be faster, right? Because he's more linear than we are. We're kind of sitting in front of them, especially if you have someone who's A, faster, and B, who's a good shooter, because you have to be closer to them. Now, here's the reason people don't like to cross their feet is, again, because they're scared that they'll get, snatched or get their ankles broken or something. I'm gonna show you guys film here on why that's silly, but just let's think about this logically, right? If someone's driving left and they have a step on me, for one, I cannot continue to slide, right? They're just gonna get to the rim. I have to turn, sprint, get back in front of them, beat them to their spot in order to actually play defense. If I'm sliding and they just start going here, I just continue to slide, they're gonna be faster than me because they're linear and I'm lateral, right? So if they're just running and I keep sliding, I'm gonna get beat. But let's say I'm getting in this position and they snatch. Why do I have to keep running? Like, people think that if I'm doing this and they snatch, I'm just gonna keep going this way. We could just stop. This is where being a good athlete and having strong legs comes in, right? It's just like closing out. You gotta be able to decelerate quickly. So if I take 2 big steps this way and they snatch or they stop, I don't have to keep moving that way. I can just stop. And if they change directions, for some reason, people think that you have to flip this way when your feet are kind of crossed like this. Just take a step and turn here. We don't need to, turn while our feet are facing the wrong direction. I don't have to go like this and then trip over my feet. That's not, this actually rarely happens with anyone that's a semi-good defender. I don't even mean really good defender, a semi-good defender. They never go like this and then just turn over their feet because they know what to do. So you just go here and then turn. That's all you need to do. There doesn't need to be this, totally irrational fear of getting your ankles broken or getting snatched, because all you can do is stop here, close out if they're pulling up, or get back in their space, and if they change directions, you could just turn again. All right, we don't need to do things that are uncomfortable to our bodies, like turning like this. Just take another step, or if they're stopping, we can just stop with them. We don't need to continue moving there. So those are the major 2 defensive myths that I wanted to go over today. Again, when it comes to closeouts, especially at a higher level, you're gonna wanna be able to stop yourself a lot quicker than just off of like 10 steps, right? We wanna be able to go 1, 2, and then kind of slow ourselves down and change directions from there. And then when it comes to sliding and crossing your feet, you're gonna have to have a mix of both. If the guy's in front of you, obviously you can slide there, but as soon as they start to get a step, you're gonna have to turn, flip your hips, cross your feet, get back in front of them there. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on the rest of my socials to have more tips on how to be a great basketball player.